That's precisely what our next presentation is about, the next 5 years in terms of evolution, both for fashion and for lifestyle businesses. And presenting his thoughts on the subject is Abheek Singhi, who's Senior Partner and Director at BCG.
So I know it's that time of the afternoon where after a good lunch, most people are looking to nod off to sleep. So I have a few slides and a few videos. When I was asked to talk about what's going to happen in this space over the course of the next 5 years, I looked at some of the recent predictions which have been made. And talking about predictions, especially in the 5 years horizon, is especially dangerous. There were a set of people who tried to make the predictions around the global financial crisis, and we knew where this ended up. I'm sure many of the people in the room remember what happened to the election forecasts before the last election and before the previous election, and weather is something which invariably we get wrong. So let me start with the caveat that there are a set of quote-unquote predictions that I'm going to be talking about. Most likely, if we were all to meet here 5 years later, we'd find that half of them are probably right, half of them have not turned out the way it has been thought to. And one of the reasons is that the pace of change in terms of everything is increasing at a much faster rate. And many of us who are actually tracking this find it difficult to figure out what is really the noise and what is really the signal. So what I'm going to attempt to do over the course of the next 25 minutes, and we'll try to keep it interactive, is to lay out some of the noise and some of the signals and have a conversation about what really could be happening going forward. Right? So let me start with some fact and data. So if you look at the left-hand side of this chart, you find that Indians spend 6,590,000 crores in 2010. So this is the amount of the total spend we did as a country. About 400,000 crores was what we spent on clothing, fashion, apparel, footwear at that point of time. This number increased from about 100,000 crores from 2000. So we witnessed this becoming about 3.9 times over the course of the decade from 2000 to 2010. If you were to look at what are some of the key drivers behind it, it's about urbanization, it's about increase in income, but most importantly, it's about a change in attitude. And if you look at how this could go over the course of the next 5 years, this is likely to be a 1,500,000 crore market by 2020. So this is going to be one of the largest markets in the country today. And especially from a retail perspective, it's even more important because this is already a segment which is significantly, quote-unquote, organized. Right? So this is just to give you a sense of where we are starting off from. The three questions really are what's going to happen to categories. So which categories are going to grow and why? Which formats are going to grow and why? And what are the capabilities which are going to be required going forward? So let me start with the first piece. And this is very simply, what do consumers want? So BCG does this study every year. We've been doing it now for close to 10 years across the world in terms of what is it that consumers want. And if you look at it globally, you actually find that consumers want some combination of this A, B, C, D, E, right? So they want the thing that they want to buy to be available. They want breadth. They want convenience. And convenience differs very differently depending on which consumer segment that you're talking to. Everybody loves a deal and a discount. And finally, and that's important, people want experience. So the interesting thing in India is if you look at the weightage, when you ask consumers to force rank about what is important to them, the interesting thing is almost everything is equally important. This is one big difference from what everywhere else in the world that you see. In different parts of the world, either the experience or the convenience or the breadth of assortment actually becomes more or less important. India is almost a unique market where most consumer segments want equal proportion of this. What this means is people want everything. And if we especially look at how this is happening in the context of fashion, there's actually no but on this page. You see the and. So the consumers want to spend, but they also want to save. They want to be traditional and they want to be modern. Our research has indicated that the Indian consumers, on an average, want to blend in. So they don't want to be very much out there, but they still want their unique, distinctive style to be there. Comfort and style, convenience and experience, touch and feel and digital. So that's what the consumer of today in India wants, and that poses a challenge in terms of saying, are there existing categories which can satisfy this requirement which the consumer today has? Now, let's step back and see what's happened over the last 10 years, 5 years, which are the categories which have really grown. And if you look at it, most of the disruptive growth has happened in categories which are at the cusp or intersection of conventional categories. I would make a provocative statement and say that the conventional way of segmenting the categories, whether you do it Indian, Western, whether you do it men, women, whether you do it in terms of style, comfort, is the place which has led to lack of innovation. And people who have innovated, whether it's the ubiquitous Bandi or the Modi Nehru jacket today, or whether it's the kurti in its different avatar, or the most interesting one is the picture that you see on the extreme right of the screen, which is the denim lycra. Right? So it's actually categories which have been created at the intersection of existing categories, whether it's in terms of fabric, whether it's in terms of gender, whether it's in terms of meeting the requirement which is there on this page, which looks at the and phenomena, which actually makes the difference. So categories which are going to win in the future are going to be the ones which are at the cusp of categories, which are at the intersection of categories. The second piece is this entire debate about the online, offline world. And very candidly, so this is an example of how a consumer shops for a pair of jeans. And what you see on this page is the research may be happening offline or physically, but out of the store. The consumer notices something and goes online to find a pair that they need. They check on Facebook or Twitter, depending on whichever medium that they are in, as to what is it that people are talking about, location within the shop. There's actually the physical trying, and then going back because maybe you found something that you didn't like, or you found something but it was not available. So the purpose of this slide is to outline what's really going to happen in an offline-online world. And the fact of the matter, and everybody in this room probably knows as a consumer, that this offline-online transition that people talk about is completely artificial. What we did was to actually go and meet a set of consumers and try to figure out how the shopper of the future is going to shop. And this video outlines what could happen. So this is a consumer or a couple and how they could be shopping 5 years from now. Some of it may seem outrageous. This is actual Delhi Metro, by the way. Some of the technology that you see on this video already exists. So it's actually not that futuristic, even though it may appear. Wearables are becoming important. Spectacles, Warby Parker may have a challenge because if they start getting printed. So the interesting thing is the innovations that you see in the 24 hours are actually not that outlandish. This is not even the quote-unquote technology of the future. This is actually technology which already exists. And this could be the way that we start seeing consumers shop in the future. Now, one of the questions which is there is, what really is the winning format? So if you look at a long-term view, the answer seems to be clear as to who's the winner. So what you see on this page are the stock prices over a 10-year period indexed for Walmart, Macy's, Amazon, Nordstrom, Best Buy. And you see Amazon outperforming everybody by a clear margin. Interestingly, if you take a 5-year view, the answer is actually not that obvious. Actually, the best performing stock over a 5-year period is Macy's. And one of the reasons that has led to that performance is what they have been able to do in terms of offering a clean, clear, omni-channel solution. Now, one of the questions which always comes in terms of formats is, what's going to happen from an e-commerce perspective? Who's going to be the winner? Is it going to be the pure plays? Is it going to be different? And here's just some data, right? So if you look at the US and the UK, 7 and 8 out of the top 10 e-commerce sales are actually by players who have a significant brick-and-mortar presence. And given the fact that if you look at UK, 2 out of the 3 which are pure play are actually Amazon, which is amazon.co.uk and amazon.com. It's actually 80% or 8 out of the top 10 guys are actually people who have a significant brick-and-mortar presence as well. My view is, if you look at formats of the future, it's actually not going to be about brick and mortar and pure play. You have conclusive evidence even today that people who are able to have the right mix between the two are the ones who are winning. Now, what would be some of those winning formats? What does winning in multi-channel require? So here are some examples. So New Balance, how many people in the audience have heard of this brand? New Balance, right? It's a popular shoes, footwear brand. Their store in New York actually brings back, in some sense, the joy of shopping for a shoe. So the store actually is designed to reflect the heritage. You have shoemakers in prime real estate in Manhattan creating shoes which are labeled as assembled in New York and sold to the consumers. Zara's gone in for a new green store. You have Apartment 32's chic department store where you are treated as guests, and probably something which comes as a relaxation to multiple people is there's no talking on smartphones allowed in that store. Now, let's look at what happens at New Balance. So we talked about the heritage part, but there is actually a fair bit of technology which is also going behind the same.
The act of buying shoes has remained the same, more or less, for decades. But New Balance, a company known for exceptionally personalized service, knew the world was changing. fast. They saw a need to enhance the shoe buying experience. It would be transformed from a purely physical act to one that also engages the mind. New Balance would use technology to not only take care of the basics, like creating a perfect fit, it would also educate customers. It would help one sales associate do the work of two. Ultimately, it would be an immersive engagement, one that would go the distance in helping close the deal. The fabrication process relied on a design that was in keeping with the current look of New Balance retail stores, so it would stand out by fitting in. The New Balance retail app was designed to function as a rich media dashboard for customers and a sales-assisted app for associates on the floor. As a point of engagement, the app would live horizontally and be informative as well as entertaining.
So I think that's an important part, which is it's not only about using omni-channel or digital as something for the consumer, but for the store staff, sales staff as well. I think that's a lot of newsprint, headlines in the print as well as the electronic media has been going about, the self-serve itself, but actually the opportunity which provides from a Salesforce enablement perspective is huge. A new word, I'm sure that somebody coined it somewhere, is around retailtainment. We talked about the A, B, C, D of the consumer experience, and the E part is what characterizes the winners from people who are not doing so well. How do you get experience entertainment in the shop? The Adidas Tokyo store tries what they call trivertising. So you can actually try out products, go for a run, go for a shower. There are treadmills, there are exercise areas in the store itself for you to really experience the product itself. Globetrotter, not the luxury brand Globetrotter, but the outdoor Globetrotter store in Germany is spread over 300,000 square feet with an artificial lake in the middle where you can actually try out the canoe. So it's actually experiencing the product in as authentic an environment as possible. Topshop is the next where I'll share with you a small video. So this is actually not about the fashion advice, but about virtual reality in a fashion show. So you actually see many of the retailers who are coming from the brick and mortar side trying to do things differently in order to be relevant, stay relevant. There are multiple other examples, but I think the key point, if one was to look at which formats are going to win, I think taking a view in terms of saying small formats are going to win or large formats is actually just taking away the richness of the discussion. What you find is formats which provide experience and convenience are the ones which are winning. And the ones which are integrated digital offer are the ones which are winning. What you see on this page are some of the hottest, well, startups probably would be the wrong word because some of them are much beyond that. But the common theme across these 4 players that started off as pure play is they have all started having some presence offline. Some of them have pop-up stores. Some of them have got temporary stores. Some of them, so for example, Warby Parker, which has now set up a permanent store in New York, its sales per square feet in the US is the second highest in the world. The highest is, of course, the Apple Store. The third highest is Tiffany's. But interestingly, Warby Parker's, which sells spectacles, has got a higher sales per square foot than Tiffany's and just follows Apple. Now, it's interesting what some of them are doing and turning conventional wisdom on its head. As an example, Bonobos.
So when customers first hear about the model, they say, wait a second, there's a store where I can't buy anything?
So their stores are actually guide shops where you can't really buy anything. There are 17 of them in the US right now.
So I'm Aaron Call, VP of Guide Shops and Planning at Bonobos. So I think what's so disruptive and revolutionary about this concept is you've got a retail store that's not a typical retail store. We carry one of everything that you've got on our website. So it's really a physical representation of our website. And this really hasn't been done before. So early on, as an online-only business, we had many customers coming to us and asking us to try on the clothes in person. Pretty soon we realized, listen, we've got something here. Let's set up some dressing rooms in our headquarters and see if we can make a bigger deal out of this.
Hi, how are you? I'm Jules. Welcome to Bonobos.
So most guys hate to shop. So what we've done is we've said, hey, you know what? Well, let's make it better. Let's make it all about you and make it easy, hassle-free, and pair you up with one of our guides.
Your chinos are a slim. We've got straight leg, slim, and tailored in our cuts. This is right in the middle. I think it's perfect for you.
We'll spend anywhere from a half hour to an hour really working with that customer, figure out what works best for you. And then at the end of it, we'll place an order online and it'll get delivered to you within 1 to 2 business days. It's free shipping both ways. It's a one-on-one experience where you've got full access to all of the sizes and styles that we've got on our website. And then you can walk out of here hands-free. And they have one of the best customer experiences they've ever had in their life, and they come back. And we keep getting note after note after note from customers telling us it's one of the best shopping experiences they've ever had. We're also able to offer that customer a size range that couldn't happen in a physical location if it weren't for this model. So the guide shops have been really successful for Bonobos, and so we're taking that and we're applying it to our women's brand, Air, AYR. And we think that it's...
So we talked about, the convergence in some sense from both sides, having physical presence, having digital, having the mix right is going to be critical for the format of the future. Right? And where is this all coming from? This is coming from the fact that most formats are actually forcing the consumer to make a trade-off, either in terms of assortment, availability, breadth, convenience, experience, price, and having the right mix of what you offer in the store, what you offer online. How do you make sure that it's a seamless experience that, like what we saw in Bonobos, is what would make for a winning format, even for India going forward? The third circle that I was talking about was around capability. But before I do that, this is a set of photographs on Lululemon. How many people have heard of this brand? How many people have heard it because of good reasons and bad reasons? Because there's, it's a $1.3 billion top line company. It is fairly profitable, Canadian company, but it's also been in the news for some wrong reasons. So how many people have heard about it for quote-unquote good reasons? How many people have heard of it because of the controversy surrounding Lululemon? The controversy, sir, if you would, have you heard of the controversy surrounding Lululemon? Yeah. So, as I said, they've been in the news for a set of good reasons. So 2006 to 2010, they were growing at 48%, reached about $700 million top line. From 2010 to 2014, the 730 odd million became 1.4 billion, which, given the economic environment in which they were operating, that's, fantastic performance. The CFO has resigned. The CEO has made a set of controversial comments. One of the most controversial comments being, there was a controversy about the product quality, and the CEO actually went on record and said, our apparel, our clothing is not for fat women. if you're fat and if you use our clothes, then the product quality is not going to last. I mean, which was somewhat strange, but I didn't want to talk about Lululemon because of the controversy, but I think an interesting theme around what they have done is if you look at the stores, if you look at how they sell, they figured that the three big things as people are buying for category around the athleisure segment in some sense is they want space, they want to be able to try it out, and convenience rooms are a big challenge. So actually, if you look at the stores, they have more convenience rooms. They have actually ample space for people to do yoga. I mean, product quality, I think, there's a mixed view. There are the die-hard loyalists who would say that, the product quality is fantastic. There are others who have a contrarian point of view. The fact is, if you look at the average selling price per item, it's about 3.5 times the rest of fashion industry in the US. If you look at the average sales per employee, it's about twice that of the industry average. So they're clearly outperforming. And one of the reasons, or one of the ways that they do it, is by investing significantly in their team, their store managers, their store staff. And I wanted to bring that as the capability point as to what is going to be required to win in fashion. I think everybody keeps on talking about technology and digital and so on. Yes, that's absolutely important. I think the one bottleneck which is going to be there in India is around the capability of the sales staff. If you are going to go to the store for that experience, you need somebody in the store who can actually help you. You need somebody in the store who can help you out, who doesn't have to, go back, who actually embodies the brand. And Lululemon is actually a good example of somebody who embodies the brand. And this 2-minute video actually lays out the life, a day in the life of a Lululemon manager. So every employee gets yoga training for free. They get 30 hours of training in addition to, the yoga training and so on.
I have not yet been home tonight.
This is the store. The store manager actually has discretion on what to keep, not keep, sell, not sell, and that's very different from a centralized merchandising approach only. They also act as quote-unquote educators for their customers. You have a 1-year, 5-year, 10-year fitness goal. So you saw, the store manager actually finalizing that with one of the customers. That's also a great way to build loyalty because then you have an opportunity to keep on engaging with the customer for 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. So those were the 3 themes really. Categories, what are going to win, intersection of new categories, and I think in the US context, athleisure is a great example of the same, where you have athletic leisure coming through. So you have new categories coming at the intersection. The same is going to happen in India across different dimensions. Formats of the future, convergence again, so intersection of the same, capabilities, people as the big gap going forward. I am at 27 minutes, so we have 3 minutes. Happy to take any questions or give back 2 minutes of your time. Thank you.
What, in your view, are the reasons why Indian retailers haven't kept pace with their Western counterparts when it comes to technology or experiences in retail?
I think, first of all, I would partially question the premise itself that Indian retailers have not. I don't think you have a uniformity, but you find that in pockets. And even within stores, I think the challenge is around ensuring consistency of the same. You actually find pockets of great experience across different brands, different retailers. I think the challenge is around consistency of that. And to my mind, there are two reasons for the same. Number one is lack of people. And the second is, till very recently, lack of investment in technology, which could actually make it happen. So if I go to my neighborhood store from where I shop, either grocery or apparel, probably I'll get a great experience. But if I go to some other store, even if it's of the same chain, I will not get that, because that store manager, that sales staff will actually not be able to figure out who I am. So I think that's the key reason. The other piece, I think, if I look at, I think intellectually everybody understands the importance of, let's say, digital or technology or what's happening online. I'm not sure, even within this audience, whether we are completely immersed and are digital natives. Especially for anybody above the age of 35. So let me ask one question. How many people in this room have heard of somebody called Do Pi Die? No using Google, please. Right? So Do Pi Die is sort of the screen name of a Scandinavian play gamer. So this guy actually is the topmost YouTube subscribed channel in the world. Okay, he's got 42 million subscribers. Don't ask me why, because all he does is to actually give a commentary. So he's a gamer, he plays different video games, and he gives a commentary of what are the different games that he's playing, and he gives a sort of word-by-word commentary. He's the top YouTube channel in the world. Only 2 of the top 100 YouTube channel in the world are those run by companies. 98 of them are done by people like Do Pi Die. And the fact remains that most of the people in this room, or most such rooms, would not even have heard of somebody who has an audience of 42 million on an ongoing basis. If this was with a group of people less than 20, I think the answer would have been different. Thank you.
Warm round of applause, please, for Abheek. Thank you very much.